What's going on, Tandemals? It's another fun-filled episode of the Tanndemonium Sports Show. And if I'm recalling correctly, Jackson, this will be the last episode that we pre-record. Am I right? Is that you're more, or no, this is the next. No, it might be the last. It might be the last one, I think. Jackson. All right, so how the hell is everybody doing tonight? Oh, that's crazy. So, yeah, as far as I am aware, it looks like this is going to be the last episode that we have to pre-record. I'm pretty pumped about that because that just means there's a lot less crap that we're going to have to do behind the scenes to get the show out, and we can actually do a whole hell of a lot more things. I'm joined tonight by, well, you see there with the nameplate and everything, Jackson Law. I would ask him how the hell he is, as I customarily do, but we're having technical difficulties. So why don't we introduce two of the newest members of the Vendetta Sports Media payroll, and that is young Andrew McGuinness, the new lead hockey big brain guy, and our hockey / social media guru, Emma Brown. How the hell are you, folks?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. Might want to mute yourself there, Spartacus.
Nothing like naming someone in hockey expert who had the Oilers rolling over the Jets in the first round.
Yeah, that's not a good look. But it's still kind of funny.
It is, but it isn't. Not just because I got the prediction wrong, but it isn't for McDavid.
Yeah. You know what though? I can't really give I can't really say anything to that effect because my Penguins are one game away from being trounced. And let's just jump right into it. We were talking about this before we came on air. Tristan Jarry should not be allowed in net like ever again. How do you make a Pee Wee League hockey mistake like that in the playoffs, Andrew? How does one do that?
It was bad. It's actually the second time in these playoffs you've seen a goalie turnover lead to a double overtime winner, which I don't really ever remember the last time a goalie gaff led to a playoff overtime goal. And we've had two in these playoffs. There was one in Washington, Boston, where Ilya Samsonov turned it over, some miscommunication between Justin Schultz and Craig Smith scored on a wraparound, and the one last night where Jarry breaks the cardinal rule of goaltenders playing the puck, never go up the middle, and then he tried to go for a poke check, which wasn't really well advised, and Josh Bailey trips it in. Islanders will have a chance to secure at least two more games at Nassau Coliseum before they close that building down and move on to the playoffs for the third consecutive year.
Yeah, and Emma, as a Islanders fan, you want to see more of Tristan Jarry in net.
I would love if they put Tristan Jarry back in the net.
Well, they're going to do it.
Yeah, who else do they don't have anyone.
I don't even know who their other goalie is.
It's Casey DeSmith, who's like decent, but I wouldn't be totally stunned if he plays. But if he plays, it's really not because he's expected to do well. It's just because Jarry's just on such a negative spiral that they figure, all right, we just need to reset things here.
I would love if they put Jarry back in the net, but also the Islanders, the only reason they won that game the other night is because of Ilya Sorokin. Ilya Sorokin was standing on his head for his team because they just weren't performing in front of him. So, as far as I'm concerned, they are the New York Ilya Sorokins until further notice.
Well, Emma, let me ask you this. If you're, well, not Ron Hextall, obviously, because Ron Hextall didn't have the job, but if you had it all to do again, I'm pretty sure you don't let Marc-Andre Fleury go in the you don't leave him unprotected in the expansion draft, knowing what you know now.
I have never been a Pittsburgh Penguins fan in my entire life.
You're banned.
But Fleury has played my Colorado Avalanche 9 times this season, and if I were in Pittsburgh, like in charge of Pittsburgh, I would not have let that man go because he is like an acrobat in front of the net. I don't understand how he does all of that without hurting himself.
And I think, Andrew, it's snake bite, really, because You figure you've got Matt Murray, who's younger and he has so much potential. Well, he flames out. He can't get the job done. So now you have this other guy who looked like he might be able to do something, and he's flaming out.
It was absolutely a logically sound decision for the Penguins to expose Marc-Andre Fleury because they had Matt Murray, who had led them to back-to-back Stanley Cups. Fleury was 35. His contract was going to be up in another year or two, making way more money than Matt Murray was at the time. It was absolutely the right decision to make. Unfortunately for the Penguins, it just hasn't played out like they would have hoped for. Murray obviously regressed, was traded past year to Ottawa, did not have a very good season this year. Jarry and Casey DeSmith, their backup, are solid goalies. I mean, Jarry is definitely better than what he showed in Game 5 and in this series, of course. He's had some better games. It was tough in Game 1 for him, of course, as well. Let in a couple soft goals in that overtime loss. But it was definitely the right decision for them to expose Fleury a couple years ago. But sometimes what's the saying? The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. That's kind of just what's happened for Pittsburgh's goalie situation over the last few years.
That's true. But you know what? Let's go into something that all three of us can agree on and be happy about. And this is an article written by our own Christopher Bagdonis here on Vendetta Sports Media. Go on ahead to vendettasportsmedia.com. Go to our NHL section and check it out. The Washington Capitals gone in 5. So one of the questions that Christopher asks is, where do the Capitals go from here? Me, I say into obscurity. Just go into the basement for like 10 years. I'm happy with that.
That's going to happen eventually. I would be stunned if it happens next year, frankly. They're going to re-sign Alex Ovechkin. There's like a 95% chance it happens. I mean, he's the captain, the face of the franchise. He's never stated that he wants to go anywhere else, and I don't really see any reason why he would want to. He's obviously been a huge part of their success over the last decade and a half, the Stanley Cup win in 2018, all that good stuff. They still have a lot of their core players under contract for the next few years. Oshie, Backstrom, Carlson. Evgeny Kuznetsov seems to be on rocky waters a little bit right now with some of the stuff off the ice, of course, suspended for a game near the end of the season, then missing time in the playoffs, was on the COVID list. Year or two ago, he got suspended for a couple games for tested positive for cocaine at the World Championships. I remember there was a video out there that appeared to show him doing cocaine. He got suspended for like 3 games or something like that. They still have a pretty good team, but it's an aging team, and it's a team who is really never going to be able to dramatically change their identity at this point and remain successful without going through a rebuild at this point. They are what they are at this point. The Ovechkin, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Oshie, Carlson core, and all that good stuff. Honestly, I mean, the big thing for Washington is they got to get goaltending next year. And, you know, we all thought that Ilya Samsonov was going to be the answer because he was pretty good for them last year. And obviously it was like, it's the same thing as the Penguins. It was the smart decision for them to let Braden Holtby leave because they had a younger guy in net and was playing better. But it hasn't worked out for them this year. So Samsonov dealt with some time on the COVID list. They lose Vitek Vanacek, their backup, who had a good season, literally 15 minutes into their first game of the playoffs. And they were just never really able to regain their footing, even though they won Game 1 in overtime.
Emma, what do you see coming out of Washington right now? I mean, you heard when Andrew said the chances of Ovechkin signing a new contract are really, really high. What do you see happening if he doesn't? And what moves do you think that they make if they are able to re-sign him? What moves do you see them making to maybe get over the hump next year?
I think honestly at this point they won the cup in 2018, so obviously they're going to have to rebuild soon because that's just kind of how the cycle goes. But in my mind, there's not really a difference in a rebuild in the next 5 years versus a rebuild in the next 2 years. Like, let your core retire as Capitals rather than rushing a rebuild. And like obviously Ovechkin is going to spend more than 5 years but I don't really see Ovechkin going anywhere else, and I'm pretty sure the NHL would catch on fire if he signed anywhere but Washington.
Now, do you think that if Ovechkin were to leave, if Ovechkin were to go somewhere else, do you think that has as much of a impact on the NHL as, say, Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay or Aaron Rodgers going someplace else? Or is it bigger because of who he is? Because in hockey, you know, stars are more likely to stay put. You know, you've got Ovechkin, obviously, in Washington, Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. How much on fire does that set the NHL if that were to happen? Emma first and then Andrew.
I've never thought about it that way. I think it might be bigger just because it's more common in the NHL for stars to spend their whole career in one place. Yeah, I think I grew up watching Ovechkin in Washington, so I can't even wrap my brain around him being anywhere else. But yeah, I think it would be bigger, like a bigger upset than Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady moving.
Andrew?
I think that's a fair point for you to make with the, obviously, like what Emma said, that most NHL stars are more likely to spend their entire career with the same team as compared to someone in the NFL or NBA or MLB. The one thing I also want to talk about Washington, what's interesting is how aggressive they could be for the Seattle expansion draft. Based on their roster, they could protect all of their good players and just lose like a depth guy like Daniel Sprong or someone like that to the Seattle expansion draft. Or they could kind of get really aggressive and move out a contract like Evgeny Kuznetsov or TJ Oshie, who's from the Seattle area, which would clear up some cap space, which they could use to maybe get a little bit younger or acquire someone who they think is a little bit better of a fit for their not new head coach, but going into his second year behind the bench in Peter Laviolette.
So now for the teams that are like my Penguins, the Blues, we already talked about the Capitals, the Oilers, you know, these teams that are either on the cusp of being gone or are gone already. What do you see them doing perhaps for next season to get some success to get out of the first round? Andrew, since you made the you had made the pick initially of the Oilers, I want to start with you. What do you see the Oilers doing in the offseason for next year to maybe get over that hump to get into the next round?
Well, the Oilers, it's no secret what their weaknesses. It's depth up front, frankly. Their forward depth behind McDavid and Leon Draisaitl is pretty embarrassing. And the one real quality player they have behind those two is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and he's a pending unrestricted free agent. Now, I don't think he's going to get too much of a raise, if any, and because he already makes $6 million, I believe, per season. And I think there's a good chance he resigns at Edmonton, but that's their first priority. I think they would like to ideally get another top four defenseman to help out as well, but I also feel like forward depth is probably their biggest concern, and also goaltending. Obviously, Mike Smith was phenomenal for them this year, but he's 39, I think. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so you got to make a tough decision there. All right, the guy was successful last year, but he's really getting up there in age. Can we expect him to come out and over the course of a full 82-game season, which is obviously longer and more demanding than the 56-game season, even if the schedule is a little bit more spread out in terms of how many rest days you get in a normal year as compared to this one? Can we trust this guy to be our starter over a full 82-game season at his age and with all the wear and tear that his body has taken, or do we need to go out and find another starting goaltender? So the Oilers, frankly, have a lot of decisions to make, and I could see them being a really busy team in the offseason, but if they're going to do that, it's probably going to have to come through some buyouts of a guy like James Neal. They need to clear up some cap space, frankly, in order to do that sort of stuff. So, yeah, the Oilers, I mean, their issues have been well documented with some of their depth issues behind their two stars.
Emma, like I said, we already talked about the Capitals. Blues, Pens. I mean, you know, let's go with the Blues because the Blues are the only other team that are out. What do the Blues have to do next year to be successful, to maybe not have this early first round exit?
Don't go into the playoffs expecting to win in the first round, first of all. They went into the first round way too cocky, and then they got swept. Anyways, I don't think Vince Dunn is going to be in St. Louis next season. There's been not a lot of issues, but been some significant issues with his performance on the defense, and I don't foresee him staying in St. Louis. If he is there next season, I would guess he'll be traded before the deadline. Yeah, and they won the cup in 2019. So it's just kind of how the cycle goes. Being like winning the cup and then going and getting swept in the first round 2 seasons later, that's not super common to see, but it happens, and I think that they're just going to have to start their rebuild because they're not an older team. As far as I know, they're not an older team. But yeah, I think first and foremost, Ryan O'Reilly needs to calm down a little bit, bring his ego back down. Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing right now, though. I know there's some folks over there, they took some of their gambling over to a monkey knife fight, and they probably made a huge killing. See, someone decided that even though young Andrew McGuinness does have the big hockey brain, they decided not to listen to him and go old school with the Winnipeg Jets, and they won a ton over at monkey knife fight. If you're into sports gambling and you want to listen to what young Andrew or young Emma have to say about the playoffs going in, go to Monkey Knife Fight. You can either download the app or go to the website and use our promo code Vendetta, and they will match you dollar for dollar up to $100. So your first $100 that you put into your brand new account, if you use our promo code Vendetta, they're going to match it. And then you can put your money down on the playoffs tonight coming up. And hey, you can make some money. We had Kane on here last week. I'm really pumped, and I believe I said this when we first signed on before we went on air. I have had 3 of the 5 on payroll on my show in the last 2 weeks. Who else is saying that but us, Jackson Law? Who the hell else?
Nobody.
Nope. That's why everyone wants to be on the show. So, Emma, I want to start with Emma, and then I want to get your thoughts as well. Give me some predictions. Right about now, from what I'm seeing in front of me on the bracket, we got the Vegas Golden Knights up 3-2 against the Wild. We've got Toronto up 2-1 against the Habs. Who else do I have on here? The Panthers are up 3-2. The Panthers up 3-2 against the Lightning, and Carolina and Nashville are tied.
Tampa's up 3-2.
Tampa's up 3-2. Excuse me, I read it wrong. And the Islanders are up 3-2. Real quick, Andrew, Lightning round it. Vegas, Minnesota. Does Vegas close it out, or does Minnesota come back?
Vegas has basically been the better team every single game in this series. When the Wild have won, they've been pretty badly outshot. At least last night, especially, they were pretty badly outshot. I think game 1 was actually a little bit more even in terms of shots and whatnot, and chances and all that stuff. When Cam Talbot has been great, the Wild have won. When he's been okay, the Wild have lost. I think Minnesota has a decent shot at winning Game 6. You never want to go 0-3 in the first round on home ice, and that's what they're facing the proposition of if they can't pull out a win tomorrow. So I think they can defend home ice at least once in the series tomorrow. Of course, going into this series, Vegas had never won a game in regulation in Minnesota, and they did so in Games 3 and Game 4 in pretty convincing fashion. But I do think the Golden Knights are the better team. They've been that from basically the series, with the exception of a couple of good periods here and there for the Wild. And so I think Vegas is definitely going to pull it out.
Emma.
Yeah. I think Vegas will win, but I think Minnesota will drag it out to a Game 7.
Okay.
Because yes, Vegas is the better team, but Minnesota has just kind of come up out of nowhere this season. And I think
very scrappy.
Yeah, very scrappy. I think they're gonna drag it out as long as they can, but I do think Vegas is gonna win in 7.
All right, Emma. Toronto and Montreal. Toronto's up 2-1 right now, I'm seeing.
Yep.
So who do you got? Who do you like in this series?
I hope Montreal wins. But realistically, I think Toronto is going to take it. Yeah, I think that'll probably go to 6, and or Toronto will take it in 6.
All right.
This is a huge game tonight coming up. Game 4. It's a back-to-back, which they've only had in the Canadian series because they started a little bit later. Toronto is starting Jack Campbell tonight. Montreal is starting Carey Price tonight. You rarely see goalies start both halves of back-to-back in the regular season, but it's the playoffs. So both starters want to be out there, and they're both going to get the nod tonight. Toronto's obviously dealt with some injuries in this series. They're not going to have Nick Foligno again tonight. That John Tavares injury was so scary in game 1. I'm thankful that he's okay, even if he's out for the series and maybe even a bit longer. We don't know when he's going to be back from injury. But if the Maple Leafs can find a way to win tonight, I really like their chances of winning this series. If not, obviously, it becomes much more interesting. Worth noting that the Canadians would have 2,500 fans in attendance for a potential Game 6. That would be the first Canadian team to have any fans this season, so that definitely could play a factor if Montreal is able to win one of these next 2 games and get fans back in their building before the fall. But Toronto, at the end of the day, they are the more skilled team. They've been able to show that they can handle the Canadians physically over these first couple games. If they can get their power play to start producing, and they did score a couple of goals in Game 2, and I thought they had some really nice chances in Game 3, I think that the Maple Leafs can pull away and definitely win this series. I had them in 6 going into this, and I'll stick with that prediction.
All right, guys, we only got a couple minutes left, so we're going to lightning round this. Emma, games, New York, the Islanders are up 3-2 on the Pens. Can the Pens come back, or is the Owls going to close this one out?
I think the Islanders are going to take it tomorrow.
All right. Andrew.
Legendary NHL broadcaster Harry Neal once said, goaltending is 75% of hockey unless you don't have it. Then it's 100%. The Penguins don't have it right now. The Islanders do. The Islanders are going to win this series.
All right, Andrew. Carolina, Nashville, tied 2-2.
Huge amount of credit to Nashville for those couple double overtime wins in games 3 and 4 to swing the series back even. But even though they did win those 2 games, the Carolina Hurricanes were still the better team in the series. Game 3 was a bit more even, but Carolina definitely dominated the shot clock in Game 4, or the shot count, I guess, in Game 4. I think they're going to come home, have their crowd back on their side. They're going to take Game 5, and they're going to ride that momentum into Game 6, take out Nashville on their home ice, and advance to the second round for the second time in the last 3 years.
Emma.
I agree 100%. I don't really understand how Nashville even made the playoffs, so I'm going to go with Carolina.
Unless UC Staros can just keep being a brick wall. That's the only way I could see Nashville even having a chance of advancing.
All right, fair enough. Let's ride it out to the end here. The crap, I just closed my screen. Tampa, Florida. Emma.
I think Tampa will take it in 7. Because if the Panthers win, it'll be like a huge upset, and I really just don't see them winning the reigning Stanley Cup champion. Oh my God. Yeah, Tampa in 7.
All right, Andrew.
Like I said at the beginning of the series, Florida just doesn't have enough to contain Tampa's big guns without Aaron Ekblad. Huge props to Spencer Knight for coming in, making his first NHL playoff start, and only like his 5th NHL game ever. One to remember last night, giving the Panthers their first playoff win for their home fans in April 2016. But I do think Tampa's going to close out on home ice. Bolts in 6, just like I said at the start of the series.
Thanks, guys. It's always great to have you guys on. Now, which one of you guys is going to be on next week when we're live? Which one of you is coming on live next week?
Up to you, Andy.
Or do we? Well, I guess we got to figure out schedules and all that. So we'll figure that out. But it's always great having you guys on. I love the analysis. Can't wait to see what's what. And I definitely can't wait to start talking second round, because there ain't no playoff atmosphere like a hockey playoff atmosphere. There really isn't. And once again, guys, go to vendettasportsmedia.com. Check out articles written both by Andrew and Emma, as well as so many other of our talented sports writers. Andrew, of course, the head NHL guy here at Vendetta. Emma, also doing the NHL thing, but she's also doing the social media. So when you see our posts, a lot of our posts on social media, that comes from Emma. When you see clips of this show going up, that's Emma. So make sure you check them out. And if you're, like I already said, if you're into the sports betting, you want to see what the hell is going on, and you want to try to make some of that quick cheddar, go to Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight, was it .com, Jackson? If you're not on the app,
monkeyknifefight.com. Yeah.
Make sure you go to monkeyknifefight.com. And if it's your first time, use our promo code Vendetta. They will match you dollar for dollar up to $100 on your very first. So make sure you check that out. Andrew, Emma, we'll see one of you guys next week. Always great having you. We'll be back on the Tanndemonium Sports Show here on Vendetta Sports Media. Jackson, we got NBA basketball playoffs to talk about.
Listen, something just happened. Something just came down from the league. We got to talk about it as soon as we come down to break. It's got me kind of heated right now.
Oh, snap.
Okay?
Jackson,
if you didn't see my reaction from just a second ago, okay?
Jackson's
I'm already pissed off about the internet
for a whole segment, and now he's ready to unleash the fire of Surtur. I can't wait. Mount Doom ain't got fire like Jackson Law's got fire right now. So we'll be right back here on the Tanndemonium Sports Show. We're going to have a word from one of our other sponsors, Symbol. Now, if you don't do online gambling, you'd rather buy stocks, that's cool. Let's see what Symbol has to offer. We'll be back on the Tanndemonium Sports Show here on Vendetta Sports Media Networks. The following is brought to you in partnership by Symbol. Symbol is a new sports marketplace where you can trade shares of professional teams like stocks. You love sports. You interested in fantasy sports without the weekly annoyance of fantasy league upkeep? Then Symbol's the app for you. With Symbol, fantasy sports is going to a whole other level. How it works is simple. You buy Symbol shares for your favorite sim teams on the app. When your sim team wins, you get automatic cash deposits, and you don't lose any money when they lose. That's it. So if you follow trends across football, basketball, hockey, and coming soon baseball, and you think your team is a sleeper, simply invest in your favorite sim teams on Symbol and watch your virtual portfolio prove you right or wrong. And if you want to get in on the action right away, Vendetta Sports Media's got you covered. Go to symbol.app/Vendetta and use our exclusive promo code Vendetta, and you'll get a $10 bonus when making your first deposit. Symbol, taking fantasy sports to a whole other level. All right, we're back on the Tanndemonium Sports Show here on Vendetta Sports Media Networks. Oh, Jackson Law. Some breaking news just came down. Now, it'll be way more fun when breaking news comes down when we're live next week, because now for us it's breaking, but when this airs, it'll be a day late. So,
but still, okay.
It's still news.
So
it's still news.
All right. So just came down. The NBA has fined Dallas Mavericks forward Kristaps Porziņģis $50,000 for violating NBA rules that prohibit players from going into bars, club lounges, or similar establishments regardless of vaccination status. Now, you may not think that that's a big deal, okay? Because people just like, it's just Porziņģis, it's whatever, you know, or, you know, he violated protocol, so he should get fined.
Mm-hmm.
But before game one of the Lakers and Suns playoff game, do you know where LeBron James was the night before or a few days before that? He was at a massive party with Drake and other celebrities, not masked, not social distancing, celebrating the launch of a tequila brand that LeBron has stake in with a bunch of other celebrities. What? And you know what happened? Nothing happened to LeBron. Porziņģis gets fined $50K, which is a drop in the bucket, which isn't even a drop in the bucket for NBA players. Let's be real, okay? That's chump change. Porziņģis probably spends $50,000 on like care products for his pets, okay, a year. All right, that's how much money Porziņģis has. But nothing happens to LeBron. And I get it. LeBron's the golden child and all this bull crap. He gets, you know, he's the ratings guy. I'm sure when LeBron leaves, the NBA is going to maybe tank in ratings the same way that the league tanked in ratings after MJ left. But it's so blatant that it pisses you off. Okay. It's like, thank you, Train. It's like It's like you go back to the stock trading fiasco. We all know the system is rigged. We've always known that. But then when it happens in front of our faces, when it's so blatant and so obvious that it doesn't do anything but just really piss you off.
Wow.
And this is what this did. It pisses me off. And no one's going to talk about it. No one's going to say a damn thing about LeBron James going to celebrate the launch of a tequila brand when there are protocols in place. What's going to happen to the playoffs? Because LeBron James has been really iffy about getting the vaccine or not. He's like, that's personal business. And so far, everything indicates that he has not gotten the vaccine. What if he contracts COVID-19 and then he went and he plays an entire series against the Phoenix Suns? And then it turns out that someone tests positive. Maybe it's not LeBron, but someone there is testing positive. Someone from the Lakers or the Suns test positive because they also aren't vaccinated.
Devin Booker, is Devin Booker vaccinated?
I have no idea. A lot of the players haven't been very open with if they're vaccinated or not.
Now, Courtney, you've been involved in some discussions with us over the group Slack. Is this part of the course for you when it comes to LeBron James? I mean, because he got his name in the news earlier for complaining about the play-in that you and I slammed him for in the Slack.
Yeah.
And now here we go again.
Like that man right there. I literally, when I was watching the Warriors and the Lakers game, I was just like so mad. Like I wanted to like literally like punch my TV because it's like you sat there, got on Twitter. I believe it was on Twitter. He was talking about how like, oh, I won't be 100% and all this. And it's like, you're supposed to be this great like player of like our generation. And you're just making all these excuses and always crying. Like you're always crying. Every time there's a call, you're always crying. Like bro, the calls half the time not even about him. And here you come out of nowhere, coming to cry. Like, I just can't. I can't.
It's annoying.
I can't.
It's like, listen, I love my boy Anthony, okay? But I want the Suns to absolutely destroy the Lakers now. I want to sweep their asses.
I would love to see that just because
Yes.
I like Chris Paul. I am a Chris Paul guy. I would love to see Chris Paul start getting deep into the playoffs because how many more years does he have? You know, I'd like to see Chris Paul. I'd like to see Devin Booker lead his team. I would love to see a guy lead his team. I'd love to see that. I'd like to see someone in the championship not with the last name of not James. I mean, but I agree with you 100%. Here's the thing. When Laura Ingraham and the far right were attacking LeBron James, I was on LeBron's side because I really have no patience for people telling everyone either shut up and dribble or shut up, your opinion doesn't matter because of what you do. I feel that if you are old enough to have a reasonable opinion on what's going on in your world, you get to have an opinion. Now, granted, a lot of us, I can't say a lot of us because, like I said, y'all are like far younger than me. But I remember as a kid, I had an idea of how the world works. We all have an idea of how the world works when we're young. And we get real boisterous when we see things happen that we think is wrong. And then over time, we start to learn and we start to understand, well, this is how the world works. LeBron, I mean, I was on his side. And when Laura Ingraham and Ben Shapiro and all those nudniks are telling LeBron to shut up and dribble and blah, 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 I'm cussing them out because the man, he pays his taxes. He's an adult. He's voted. He gets to have an opinion. I don't care what he does for a living. And then he turns around and he does stuff like this. He makes it so hard to like him. He makes it so hard to root for him because there are so many people that have loads. Greg Hardy was a great defensive lineman but I could never root for the guy because he's a woman beater. Now, I'm not saying that LeBron is as bad as Greg Hardy. I'm nowhere near saying that. What I'm saying is that you may have talent, but that don't make you likable. And LeBron is just one of the most unlikable people in sports. And this is why. And when the NBA is going to enable him to do this with this, now granted, they did this with Jordan, they've done this with Magic, they've done this with stars of the league since the league became a thing. But I think when it comes to COVID-19 protocols, you cannot afford to do something like this. You can't, Courtney. You just can't. Rules have to be rules for everybody. I'm passing it on to you now. That's why I said Courtney.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree because like I know, like you guys said, like he's the person to bring in the money and everything, but it's just not fair. And I just know like people in the league, especially the players in the league, are feeling that way about him just because, like you said, like he's the guy, like he's the face of the NBA right now. But just because you're that person, that means you shouldn't be able to just take advantage of everything. Doesn't matter who you are. And
right. And I'll tell you something else, Jackson. If I'm the Phoenix Suns, I'm pissed. I am absolutely pissed.
If I'm any other NBA player, I'm upset. Like if I'm a person, like if I'm a person like with most NBA players, and yeah, I get it. NBA players have been really restless over the past year, okay? Those are people that when they're not on the court, when they're not in games, when they're not at practice, when they're not in the gym, they want to go somewhere and they want to cut loose and they want to spend a lot of their cash, okay? As any normal person would that makes as much money as they do, okay? And the fact that they haven't been able to go out there and spend their cash in whatever way that they want to, I get it. They're restless. Everyone across the country has been restless. We're all ready for this to end and to get back to normal life.
I'm not. I'm happy with the way things are. I'm happy with working from home and not having to go anywhere.
Most people.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I think some stuff like that will stay the same, but say working from home. Maybe I think companies finally realize, hey, people can get just as much work done at home, and they're happier at home,
right?
Because they're not in a stupid office all day.
How do you think Rudy Gobert? How do you and to your point on that? How do you think Rudy Gobert feels? Because
he's the guy that gets the hammered starting this.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one that literally, when they were having the press conferences, he's like licking his hands and touching everything and like touching everything in the locker room, and then he tests positive like the next day, and then the entire NBA shuts down.
Yeah. Now, if you're him, aren't you pissed because you got fined a lot of money for that?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, how much more expensive do you think those wings were for Lou Will down in the bubble? Because he flew to Magic City in Atlanta and got some wings.
It's crazy. So, but no, to your point, now we were saying how, folks in the NBA are going to be pissed. I think that if I'm the Suns, I'm really furious right now because now you're endangering my entire team, and not just my entire team. You're endangering my family now. I mean,
it goes deeper. And I read the NBA's reasoning, and they said, oh, it's an event where people had to be vaccinated or have a negative test, yada, 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 yada.
But you have confirmation of that.
Exactly. And it's a party full of celebrities,
A bunch celebrities of entitled ass rich people.
They don't think the rules apply to them. So they're just going to say, screw you. I'm not going to take a stupid test, and I'm not vaccinated. So I'm going to just show up. We have no confirmation that LeBron himself took a test.
It's true.
There's heavy indication that he's not vaccinated.
How amazing must it be to be so rich and powerful in this country that you can be like, yeah, I can ignore science. Whatever. Because I've got more than enough money that if it hits me, I will be fine.
I'll be all right.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, well, except if you're Jason Tatum, who basically has asthma now because of it. He's got to take a hit from an inhaler before every game, and still drops 50.
I do want to talk a little bit more of the NBA playoffs because there's a ton to go over right now, but we're kind of up against it. But we've got the playoff. We're all set now, and some of the teams that are in there, we've got the brackets all set. I didn't think Memphis would pull it out against Golden State, but here we are. And
let's go.
And now and
represent, boys.
And Boston moved on, and so I mean Boston moving on, I expected. Washington,
why? Why? Because I mean, like the Boston sucked.
I mean, Boston's had their problems, but for me, I always expect to see the Boston Celtics in the playoffs.
They got in purely on the back of Jason Tatum. Well, Jason Tatum played phenomenally down the stretch.
And that's one part of it, because even me, a very casual NBA fan, I know Jason Tatum, and that guy has to be good if I know who he is. But the Boston Celtics, in my mind, since I was a zygote, have always been in the playoffs. Just always. So every time I see, even when Boston were at their worst, and I was never a Boston fan, I'm like, somehow they're going to pull it out. And they're going to get in the playoffs. They're literally the worst team in the league, and they've gotten the lottery for the first pick. Oh, somehow they're going to make the playoffs. They're the Boston Celtics. They always make the playoffs. It's not like they're, and I'm going to be a dick for saying this, but it's not like they're the Memphis Grizzlies of like the early 2000s, or the Toronto Raptors of the early 2000s.
Chris sucked. That's okay. That's okay.
So I expect Boston to move to be in the playoffs. Now, are they passing Brooklyn? Absolutely, solitarily not. No. Brooklyn is going to stomp a mud hole in the Bostonian ass and walk it dry. Okay, that's just the way it's going to be. I'm looking at the Eastern Conference brackets, and other than the Knicks in Atlanta, there's no surprises for me. Philly is going to go up against Philly is going to play either New York or Atlanta. I don't know who's going to win that series, but it's going to be Philly and Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference final. Done. That's about it. As far as in the West,
now the West is tough.
The West is tough.
This is the toughest the West has been in a long time.
In years. And
we always knew the West was tough, but there was always like a discrepancy between like the top two teams and everyone else, but still really good.
Yeah, because the last year
it is tough this year.
Last year it was going to be the Lakers and who else. Now it's we don't know. And I like that. I like that about the West. Like, honestly, I'm rooting for Phoenix, to be honest. Not just because I'm anti-LeBron, because I grew up in the earlier 80s. I was into the Lakers. I was a huge Kareem and Magic Johnson fan. And then some bald guy out of North Carolina just stole my heart, but I still had love for the Lakers. But there's something about Phoenix that has always had my attention.
Dude, their Valley jerseys this year are probably one of the cleanest I've ever seen. They're black jerseys and like the pixelated desert landscape. Oh,
that is beautiful. That is pretty.
I found a Devin Booker jersey. I'm a big jersey guy. I am buying that. I get a paycheck coming up. Once the paycheck hits, I'm buying the shirt.
Dig it.
And if they move on, I'm rocking it.
I see. That's my thing right now. Of everyone that, like, honestly, I'm rooting for Phoenix. I'd like to see Portland move on because I do like Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
I would actually like to see Dallas move on because I like Mark Cuban and I like what's that kid's name that plays for Dallas? Is it Luka?
Luka Doncic.
I like Luka Doncic. I do like him. I think he's cool. I just
Yeah.
can't remember his name.
I like him as a player too, but he's kind of gotten pretty whiny over the past year. He's admitted
That's not
that
gonna- that's not
he
gonna
whines
last long.
quite a bit.
That's not going to last
But-
long because Mark Cuban ain't going to take that for long.
I hope he does get it under control.
Oh, he will. That's
a
one
shame.
thing. That's one thing about Mark Cuban. He don't play games. He's a Pittsburgh guy. He don't play games. And I wouldn't mind seeing. I would like to see a Memphis upset of the number 1 seed, Utah
You and me
Jazz.
both, dude. You and me
Because
both, dude.
I like.
Go back to, I think it was like 2011. I think the Grizz were the 1 seed and beat the 8 seed, and they beat the 1 seed San Antonio Spurs.
That was nuts. That was nuts. I would like to see that. I would like to see that, to be honest, because I'm a big Ja Morant fan. Last year's NBA 2K that I was playing, and because I usually, if I'm not playing the career mode, I do the franchise. I do the expansion, and Ja Morant was actually left unprotected. So I picked him up real quick. Like the first time,
really?
The first time that happened, I picked him up, and then for some reason I lost my save, and I kept redoing the expansion because they kept protecting him after that. I think it was just one of those rare instances. So then they kept
really
protecting him, and I was like, "No, I want Ja Morant. I want him."
Oh, it's great. Now it's going to be interesting because Donovan Mitchell will be coming back. Donovan Mitchell was a surprise scratch in game 1. And what Mitchell does best is, so the big reason why Memphis won this game was because there were a couple of stretches where Utah was bricking threes and they don't have shot creators. Donovan Mitchell can create his own shot and he can kind of stop the bleeding a little bit. And if you have Donovan Mitchell in there, maybe he kind of overcompensates a little bit. Some of those shots that were misses go to him. They may be makes, and that maybe gives them the win. But it'll be interesting to see because he also hasn't played in like a month or so. He hasn't played since early April, I think, is when he got injured. So, and it takes time for players to get not only back into playing shape, but to get the chemistry back in the rotation because you have over a month of role players that have gotten accustomed to their new roles without their star being there. But now that you throw their star in there, and that's about 20 shots that used to be distributed among 4 guys that are now with 1 person, and now you have dudes that are being left on islands confused about what they're supposed to do. Even if it's something that they did for 80% of the season, that final 20% of the season, now they're confused.
You get used to stuff real quick. You really do.
Yeah, it's like I'm seeing it firsthand with Memphis because Jaren Jackson Jr. hasn't been really effective, and it's because he missed 60 out of 72 games.
Yeah. And real quick, I want to get real quick because we are so up against it right now. The NBA has just announced the formation of NBA Africa. I definitely want us to follow this story a lot more. It's already valued at almost $1 billion.
Yeah, it makes so much sense because you have so many prospects that are starting to come out of Africa that I can easily see within 10 years that it is a breeding ground for prospects that play professionally there and then come to the United States through the draft. Like imagine if someone like a Joel Embiid had stayed in Africa and had access to a league that was being lifted up like the African League is going to be, and he plays in the African League and he makes a real name for himself and then comes to the United States through the draft and is drafted and then starts doing the things that he's doing. I see it. I think it's going to be a big success.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the one thing, Courtney, I definitely want to throw in your court as well. For someone like myself that I know has paid attention to what's going on in the diaspora, this investment in this league is only going to do but good things for some of those African nations to the point where maybe, just maybe, these African nations won't have to worry about investment dollars from countries that have sort of racist ideologies. Because how much did we see over the last few years of African nationals being attacked by foreign nationals that are in there on investments, and a lot of the and a lot of things that have been shaken up,
or aid money that gets like 90% of it is kept by whatever corrupt government is in place, whatever warlord successfully ran a coup.
Right. So I think, Courtney, I think that this is definitely going to be good in the long run for some of these countries.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this will bring in a lot of money and revenue to those places, like especially because, and also keeping like those athletes in their homes so they don't have to leave. Because I know like when I used to go to a lot of AAU games, that's all you seen was like these African teams or stuff like that coming to the US. So like this can just keep them there.
It can
I think
keep
that'll
them
be
home.
good.
It can keep them home. And it will also keep more eyes on the situations going on in some of these countries.
Yeah.
Because like Nigeria, for instance, Nigeria is among the lowest of resources in medical. And that's because a lot of that money is being siphoned by a corrupt government. If you've got an NBA Africa team there, you can't get away with that. Because things are going to be seen. If they find out that some of their star players aren't able to play because they're getting sick and there's no medical care for them, that's going to shine a global light on the plights of people. I mean, and the NBA has seen some tremendous success in China. And I really think that things in China could be a lot worse if we didn't have eyes on the ground there, NBA wise. So I'm all for this. I think this is going to be good. Last thing before we take a break, I know we're early. I know we're way over. Finalists for the 2021 NBA awards have been announced. Steph Curry leads the pack in the most valuable player conversation, followed by Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic.
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, him too. Defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert leads that. Draymond Green right behind him with Ben Simmons nipping at his heels. Jordan Clarkson has already won Sixth Man of the Year. Congratulations to him. Would have liked to see something for Derrick Rose, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball, are we shocked, guys, that he's up there for Rookie of the Year? Should we be shocked?
No,
No.
kind of a hot take thing here. I think they may split it like they did like 15 years ago or so with Grant Hill and Jason Kidd, where they did
co-MVP, co-rookies,
or co-rookie of the years.
I'd be okay with that
Kidd.
just
Grant
so
Hill
that I would be okay with that just so LeVar can't talk. Because I hate LeVar. I can't stand LeVar. I seriously see, because you see his other two kids have sort of distanced themselves from him. LaMelo's going to do the same thing because all he's going to do is hurt their brand. And most improved player, Jeremy Grant, is definitely up there.
That's actually been announced. Julius Randle has won.
I was actually getting ready to say
most improved.
I was actually going to say, while Jeremy Grant is the top name on there, if they don't give it to Julius Randle, I have a big problem with that.
Yeah, Julius Randle. So congratulations, Julius Randle. Well deserved, well earned.
Absolutely. And I think that Julius Randle is he is the guy that's going to be that anchor for that Knicks team in the future. They finally have their guy. And NBA Coach of the Year, honestly, it's a toss-up for me because Quinn Snyder, Tom Thibodeau, and Monty Williams all have done amazing jobs this year, obviously. But I feel that Tom Thibodeau should get that nod because he's helping bring the Knicks back to being relevant.
I feel like he will just because of that.
Yeah, just because it's the Knicks, yeah. And I mean, no, you've got a good argument for Monty Williams too. Monty Williams coming in and getting this team prepared and actually getting them to the 2 seed, the Suns. But also at the same time, you could also attribute that to Chris Paul coming in because that's been the argument for Chris Paul being MVP. But it'll probably be Tom Thibodeau because you have a lot of the same players on this Knicks team. They're a horrible defensive team last year. They come in, they're a top 5 defensive team.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to take our final break of the evening. Jackson, you're going to be doing some live streaming tonight, but you've been doing an amazing job with your Mass Effect series. And something tells me, because there are certain days where, you and I have talked and you seem a little bit tired, a little bit lethargic, but when you're playing Mass Effect, you're perked right up. Is that because of XP Coffee?
It is 100% because of XP Coffee.
It's the
for
coffee
gamers,
by gamers.
By gamers.
And we're gonna get some words about our other sponsor, XP Coffee Company. We'll be back for our final segment of this week's show, our final show where we are pre-recorded. We're going to talk some NFL, and Courtney, they doing our girl dirty. They doing our girl dirty.
Dirty.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to lead off with that first because there's some outrage right there. We'll be back. Final segment, the Tanndemonium Sports Show here on Vendetta Sports Media Networks. We'll be back. The following broadcast is brought to you in association by XP Coffee Company. XP Coffee Company is the fresh brewed coffee made for gamers by gamers. Get amazing flavors like Choco Loco in 8, 12, or 16-ounce bags, or level up and get Illusion, Isolation, Nightmare, or the Majestic Throne blends in light, medium, or dark roast in whole bean, coarse French press, drip, or fine espresso in 12-ounce, 16-ounce, or 2-pound bags. Wow! Shipping worldwide. If you're in the U.S., go to usa.xpcoffee.co. If you're in Europe or in the UK, go to www.xpcoffee.co. XP Coffee Company, for gamers, by gamers. Hey, you. Yeah, you. In case you hadn't heard, your favorite Renegade Sports Media Group has its own Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Vendetta Sports Media to support our efforts to continuously bring you sports, gaming, and other media coverage as only we can. We've got 4 different membership tiers. For $3 a month, we'll give you a simple thank you on our Patreon site. For $6 a month, you get a thank you, and you get to become a recruit in Jackson Law's Vendetta University Gaming Series. For $10 a month, you get everything from the previous tiers, a special thank you at the end of our videos, free access to our upcoming Discord chat, and a free koozie after 4 months. And then the big dog, $50 a month, gets you everything from the previous tiers, as well as opportunities for Fantasy League invites, stream gaming, possible invites to mock NFL and NBA draft sessions, a once-a-month Google Hangout, and after 4 months, a free t-shirt. Yeah! Go to patreon.com/Vendetta Sports Media and help us to improve our pledge to bring you the best sports, gaming, and other media coverage. All right, we're back, Tanimals, for the final segment of the Tanndemonium Sports Show here on VendettaSportsMedia.com. And you know what, guys? Make sure you go over to our Patreon and help us out. Go to patreon.com/Vendetta Sports Media. We have different tiers, so, we're not trying to break your bank, but even $1 a month helps us out. And a lot of what you've been doing to help us out has really done a lot of good for us, because the Tanndemonium Sports Show is going to be going live starting next week. You will be able to interact with us as we are doing the show. We will be live streaming on, I believe we're going to be on Facebook. We're going to be on YouTube. Probably going to see, I'm not 100% sure as of yet. We're going to be going through the training this week, but we are going to be live streaming. So check out that as well. And if you've got some good stuff to say in the comments, hey, we'll talk about you. If you got some BS to say, we gonna talk about you. But you know what? Let's talk a little bit about some other BS. And I'll tell you something, Courtney, I'm a little bit perturbed. Now, I'm sharing my screen here. Can you guys see the video that I've had? Okay.
Yes.
Now check this out.
Back in Indianapolis, ready to watch Simone Biles.
This is Simone Biles. Okay.
Again. And forget about her. How much of you guys
Now,
Just a little choppy.
Is it choppy? Hold on.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's
saw this
it's
with
Zoom.
Our own eyes right in front of us. It
Well, here
has
we
been
are.
absolutely unbelievable to watch every single time. Here we go.
Now look at her.
Wow.
I can't do that.
unbelievable.
No.
She is super.
I would like,
Yesterday
I would
Simone told us that
jump
she
off the
likes
first
to let her
springboard,
gymnastics speak for
hit the
her.
big one right
Well,
there
the
with
queen
my
has
face
definitely
and break my
spoken.
neck and be dead.
Now I'm
And be
gonna
dead. Oh my
and,
god.
I would be beyond dead. Now I want to show us this one more time. Okay, because I did some research on this before the show, but I want to see this one more time. Now, just watch the speed and the power.
Mm-hmm.
That's an athlete.
Damn. And her legs are out. And with the power that she put behind that, she probably could have done another rotation, Courtney. She is the first woman in history to perform what's called the Yurchenko double pike in vault.
Gesundheit.
Dr. Shane. Now,
She made it look so easy.
she really did. She really did.
Like,
She did. It's crazy.
And if I recall correctly, now I'm trying to look this up, what her score was.
in the video, I know at the end, hold on, let me go to it. I'm on the video.
She should have, if anything that's not a perfect 10 is wrong. She got a 6.6. A 6.6 out of 10.
What's the scale? Is it out of 10? Okay.
It's out of
Yeah.
10.
Execution 9.5. Really?
That if that ain't a perfect 10, I don't know what is. Now, it was said that they didn't score it high because she's on another level of her competition and they don't want the gymnast to get hurt. So you're going to penalize her for being good, for being the best of the best of the best, because these other athletes can't keep up. So does this mean that Usain Bolt, he's going to have time added? He was supposed to have time added on to him because folks aren't as fast as him?
Steph Curry going to be out there with one arm tied to his side playing basketball.
Yeah. What, Joel Embiid going to have to, he can't block shots no more? Because you saw what happened when they tried to tell Kareem he couldn't dunk anymore when he was in college.
Mm-hmm.
He perfected the skyhook. So, and this is what has me really, really fired up, Courtney. For me, this is what has me fired up. Tell me what you think. If Simone, if she were one of these Russian gymnasts, or Norwegian gymnasts, you know what? I'm not even going to tiptoe around it. If she wasn't a black damn gymnast, would they be doing this? In your opinion, Courtney?
No, they'll give her perfect 10s across the board. It's like this situation, something like this just makes me so angry because it's like, why are you guys, if anything, I feel like this is only going to fuel her because she's going to come back like 10 times harder than already being on 100 from this. And it's like, what does this really do though? What, you making it lower than, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And even they know that it doesn't make sense.
They essentially admitted that they know that it don't make sense. In Jackson Law, isn't this supposed to be anti-sport? This is totally anti-sports.
Oh, it is. It's anti-competitiveness. It's anti the whole reason why you do this stuff is to be the best, you know, and there are freak athletes that dominate their sport, and it happens. It just happens sometimes. I'm happy that she's from the United States because I get to brag about, look what we got. We're going to dominate gymnastics at the Olympics because we got her and she's so freaking awesome. Michael Phelps is the most decorated Olympian of all time. Beat a record of a dude that was from like the island of Crete back before Jesus was born. Was when that man was stomping around the Olympics.
Damn, he said that.
Okay.
Of Crete. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this makes absolutely no sense. And I'm reading through this article right now that Courtney got for us, and I'm just scratching my head. I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. whatsoever. And they're talking about how it's like it has a low starting score to discourage people from trying it. But you know what? It's not like she walked into the competition and was like, I'm just going to do this without practicing it. No, she would have built up to it. She knows her limits. She knows her body. She knows what she can and can't do. And she practiced this to perfect it because she knows she's got the body and she's got the athleticism to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows that I land this, it's going to blow the competition away. And that's what I want to do. That's what she wants to do. She wants to walk in there, do it, drop the mic, walk out with the gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And she even said, I'm going to keep raising the bar because I can.
Yeah.
I feel bad for anybody going up against her this summer because all they doing is pissing her off. This is like, you don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit in the wind. You don't trash talk Michael Jordan, and you don't make Simone Biles angry. Like, seriously, what are you going to do now? Are you going to make it so that Serena Williams has to play from behind every match because she's dominated?
Just
it's ridiculous.
Stupid.
Like, I'm ashamed. Like, this
they've,
is not.
They've done our girl dirty here.
They really did. And I'll tell you the truth.
They're gonna continue doing it too.
Right.
Oh, they will. They will.
For the upcoming.
Any which way that they can do, they gonna do. Let's move into the NFL because we're running short on time. So Jalen Smith is switching to number 9, going to be the first Cowboys player to wear it. It's Tony Romo. Okay. Good for him, I guess. We're taking full advantage of now everybody can have whatever jersey they want. So, yeah. Let's go to something that's a little bit more important. And it's funny, we were talking about Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless before we came back on the air.
This was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Now, it's not even so much now. All right, we all knew the whole Julio Jones drama was going to be huge. We all knew that. But Shannon Sharpe, now on one hand, and I said this on Twitter, on one hand, Shannon Sharpe did Julio Jones real dirty with this by putting this out there. But at the same token, Julio Jones should know that when you're dealing with anybody in the media, nothing you say is off the record. Mm-hmm. Unless you say off the record. But
yeah, and not just that, but you also have to have situational awareness. Like, you have to realize who you're talking to, Shannon Sharpe, what day of the week it is, and what time of day it is. Right. If he's calling, if I know Shannon Sharpe is in my phone and he calls me, the first words out of my mouth, are you live?
The air? Are you live?
Are you live?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Are you live? If he says yeah, then I would just be like, okay, but I'm gonna be a lot more cryptic and political with my feelings and my answers.
Or I'm not even gonna go that far. Are we live? Yeah. Okay.
Boop.
I'm not even hanging up. I'll talk to him, but if he asks me, what's in the future for you? You know what? I'm talking with my agent right now, and we're gonna come up with the outcome.
I know that's what I'm saying. He may not have been as blunt if he knew he was live. Then again, he maybe knew that he was live and he just didn't care.
And that's very, very possible. That's extremely possible. It could just be he doesn't care. But I really think that, Shannon Sharpe is doing what Shannon Sharpe's supposed to do. He's supposed to get ratings. He's supposed to get everybody talking about him and talking about his show. And he don't care how he does.
And he did.
And he did it. But now a lot of people are wondering, was that illegal? But at the same token, how do we not know that he probably set this up like this is already set up and they're just keeping it mum?
Yeah, because they have meetings like so early in the day or like the night before when it's a show like that big and that early.
Right.
Yeah, first thing in the morning they're having like a 2-hour meeting about what they're discussing and what they're talking over. And they have their fleet of interns and producers that gather all the material for them. We have Courtney that does just as good of a job, if not better, than a fleet of what Fox Sports is going to give Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
But it was wild. It was absolutely wild.
Where do you think Julio Jones ends up, Jackson?
I don't know. Gut feeling, you can never rule out the Patriots because Bill Belichick's going to offer them like a 6th-round pick and use a Jedi mind trick, and they'll accept it.
I don't know.
And
I don't think so. I don't think so with that. But go ahead.
But
I'll tell you why after.
Yeah, and it's like there are like some primary spots that would be perfect for him. Like if Green Bay could go out and get him for Aaron Rodgers, it would be great. I think Arizona could maybe try and land him to slide him in beside DeAndre Hopkins. Tennessee has been a place because he's good bros with Derrick Henry. So it's kind of up in the air. I mean, honestly, I'd kind of like to see Miami make a run at him. To be honest, like
and see,
can't have too many weapons.
That's true. Now here's my thing. Of those ones that you brought up, 2 of them never going to happen. There's no way Atlanta sends him to New England. They still remember that Super Bowl. Not going to happen. And there's no way that they make that trade with Green Bay because now you've got Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers on the same team. That ain't going to happen. And they've got way too much money in Matt Ryan. Not going to happen. The most likely, I would think, I see him going to Arizona. I do see that. I could see him getting to Green Bay, but I think they trade picks for him to try to keep Aaron Rodgers happy and have someone there for a couple of years. And then maybe when he's on his way out the door, Jordan Love still has someone reliable to throw to. As far as Miami, I could see them trying that because their draft wasn't all that good, but I'm going to throw a dark horse on you. What if the Vikings tried to land him?
Maybe. I mean, it all depends on who's willing to give up what.
Yeah, because
they say they want a first round pick for him.
Yeah, well then that eliminates the Rams because the Rams ain't got a first round pick for him.
The Rams literally do not have any first round picks. They gave up all of theirs to get Matthew Stafford. And then the Ravens are another team that people talk about.
I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening because no one's going to want to share that time with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's a run first, throw second quarterback. No real talented wide receiver wants to be on a team with a quarterback like that because at the end of the day, Julio Jones wants his stats. He's going to want his stats.
And he said he wants to win too.
Exactly.
So I don't. It was just really funny because Skip is like, what about the Cowboys?
Yeah,
ask him about the Cowboys, and he's like, nah, man, I'm not going to the Cowboys.
I want to win.
It's like, you gonna go to the Cowboys? I want to win.
Yeah. I don't think Tennessee might be that far outside of the realm of possibility. I really don't.
I mean, that would be nice for them with AJ Brown.
Yeah, and he's not going too far away from home because they're right close to each other.
And again, like I said, his boy Derrick Henry, King Henry.
Yeah. And now for our final story, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have an issue with Jordan Love. It's about the philosophy of the Green Bay Packers. Is this not the Brett Favre saga all over again?
Oh, it's come full circle for Aaron Rodgers. It absolutely has. And I get where he's coming from because they continue to not. It feels like he's not being supported as much as he could be. It's like he's got good offensive weapons. He's got good running backs. He's got a good receiver in Devontae Adams. But it's like he's got no. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He has no real second option to throw to that's reliable. They
brought in
an
Jimmy
amazing
Graham, who's at the end of his career.
Yeah, and they let an offensive lineman go that was one of the best at his position, and then they just let him go. They didn't even try to franchise tag him, and they rather would bring back Aaron Jones not Aaron Jones, the running back Adams, instead of signing the offensive lineman. I'm having like a massive brain fart right now. I'm in NBA mode right now. I got to get in NFL
That's
mode.
understandable. That's understandable. Well, you know what? The one thing that I will say is Green Bay needs to watch what they're doing, because a lot of other quarterbacks and a lot of offensive guys are going to be, a lot of guys are going to be watching how they do these things. And these players, I'm seriously thinking in the next 10 years, the NFL might do a little bit of a shift in getting closer to being what the NBA is. You know, where the players are going to start having a little bit more control over their destinies. You know, because I think that the NFL, the owners got that extra game per season, but the NFLPA, the Players Association, they got the use of medicinal marijuana, and that's just going to grow. Like that's given a lot of power. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But
I guarantee you the first draft post Aaron Rodgers era, unless there is just a stud of a defensive player at wherever they're picking it, well, I was going to say, if they think Jordan Love's they're going to go wide receiver. They're going to go skill position or offensive lineman, something that actually supports the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I wanted to bring up is, do you think, I sometimes feel like, because they did this with Brett Favre. They draft a quarterback, and then they sort of do little things to piss the quarterback off to get him to leave. It's just that now Aaron Rodgers has social media, and there's way more eyes on things now than there were back when Aaron Rodgers was going through this with Brett Favre.
I legitimately think that man would be happy leaving the NFL and just hosting Jeopardy. If Jeopardy called him up and said, "Listen, we'll give you $10 million a year to host Jeopardy."
Well, see, that's what pisses me off, because I want LeVar Burton to host Jeopardy. I don't want Aaron Rodgers hosting Jeopardy. Why Aaron Rodgers? Seriously.
Because he loves Jeopardy.
I don't care. I love LeVar Burton. Why do you not have the Reading Rainbow guy?
It's the most popular sport in America, and he's an MVP of said sport and Super Bowl winner of said sport.
F that. I want Reading Rainbow. I want Geordie LaForge, damn it. All right, with that being said, that's the end of another episode of the Tanndemonium Sports Show here on Vendetta Sports Media. I want to give thanks to Emma Brown, Andrew McGuinness, for coming on here talking hockey. Definitely want to just give a shout out to our newest sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. Go to monkeyknifefight.com. If you're into online gambling, listen, use our promo code Vendetta. They will match you dollar for dollar up to $100. NHL playoffs are going on right now. You listen to what a young Andrew has to say, you can make some extra money. That's for sure. Next week, Jackson, we go live. Now, there's probably going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some bumps.
Oh, there always is. There always is.
But we're going to, we're going to be coming all the way live. We're going to be able to take questions, comments, and everything straight up live. So this is going to be fun. It's Tanndemonium Sports Show here on Vendetta Sports Media. I'm Brian Tan. She's Courtney Plummer. He's Jackson Law. We'll see you guys next week all the way live.